The BIPOC Coach Collective proudly presents Elevate and Celebrate. This is a podcast to showcase our members, dive deeper into their journeys, and express who they are into the world. Our mission is to curate a brave and authentic space for coaches to connect and to elevate our voices globally in the coaching profession. Learn more about us at bipoccc.org. Your story matters, your voice matters. Let's start the show. All right, welcome to episode 14 of Elevate and Celebrate. I'm Alex Dumas, the Vice President of the BIPOC Coach Collective, and I've got a treat for you this month. We're going to be joined by one of our valued members, Dr. Paula Gordon. She has an extensive background in education, master in social work, and she works with two sets of groups. She works with new and emerging school leaders, folks that are looking to get prioritized and make themselves create a balance in the space of what they do in the work and what they do at their home and their lives. And the other side are women who are in career transitions, who are finding their purpose, who are seeing new opportunities, new possibilities for themselves, and are overcoming the fear of the familiarity of their work and who they are and reinventing themselves into this new space. And Paul is an expert in helping them and coaching them and leading them along to be their authentic and true self. So you're in a treat for this conversation. And I want to make a couple of announcements as we are here in April. Next week on the 12th is going to be our next facilitation call. So if you are a member of the collective, make sure you tap in for that. That starts at 12 o'clock Eastern. You can register for that online on bipoccc.org. And on the 26th, that's a Friday, from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern, we are having our next open house networking call. So this is open to the public. This is a way for you to connect with members in real time, get a feel for who we are, what we do, and find out if this is potentially a home for you. So we'd love for you to register for that as well. You can go to bipoccc.org, register for that. And outside of that, we're going to get the show started. Let's tap in. All right. Here with the wonderful, the powerful Dr. Paula Gordon. Welcome to Elevate and Celebrate.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me here.
No, you're welcome. And I'm really excited about this conversation because with your background, right, you've been a school leader for 20 plus years, right? You've been someone who's leading, who's been serving, who's been connecting with so many students and leaders, administrators, things like that. So we're going to get into that background in just a second, but I really love to know from you, how'd you get here? How'd you become you, if that makes sense? Softball questions at the top, right?
I know, such a big question. How did I become who I am? I am, I've always been one who will go after my dream no matter what. And so it comes from that level of determination and grit and doing what you need to do to get things done. I was born in Jamaica. So I got to give a shout out to Jamaica, beautiful, wonderful island, and migrated to New York as a child. And so grew up in New York City in the Bronx. And then later on, moved through college, in Connecticut, et cetera, and just lived in different spaces in the US. But that mentality of doing what you need to do to get things done, whatever your dream is, you can achieve it. So my parents, for them, education was at the forefront of what we did. So with my sibling and myself, they sacrificed a lot to ensure that we had the education that we needed to be the best us, to be the best that we could be. And so I don't take that for granted. And so what brings me here and what makes me who I am is just really unique in terms of the strength and determination and the grit that I saw my parents had as they were growing up. And they have not only shared this, but I've seen them walk that walk. And so I know I just have a strong belief in myself and just knowing that I can achieve whatever the universe whatever it is that I want to achieve in the universe. I know without a doubt I can do that. Yes, there may be barriers. Yes, there may be systems that come into place, but my strength and my inner conviction allows me to just move forward in life and in this space and just be open um, to what I will experience.
Yeah, wonderful. Wow. See, I love these kind of conversations because I get to learn about our members, right? You're part of our collective. And so there's so much there that I would love to unpack. It's going to actually lead into your background. But yeah, I want to freeze frame, right? Little Paula, right? Growing up in Jamaica, right? What was that like that first time, coming to America and like just kind of like let me put it like this, from what you heard or what you maybe people have, the rumors, whispers, things like that on the island versus what you actually experienced when you came to the Bronx of all places. So thank God you made it out of there. I tease people about the Bronx all the time, but
I love the Bronx. I absolutely love the Bronx.
you are like the one.
That's my
You're the one.
stomping ground. No,
No,
I
no, I'm
gotta
teasing.
give it up to the Bronx.
No, I'm teasing. It's the birthplace of hip hop, so the Bronx has given a lot to the world. But yeah, so little
Absolutely.
Paula, she's got this idea of like, this is what America is going to be, and then you get to experience it firsthand. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a culture shock. Just a real culture shock when I first came to the States. And um, when we first came, we lived in Manhattan, so like in the midst. Fort Washington was actually the area that we lived in. But having said that, it was just a culture shock for me, just even in terms of how students related to their teachers. Um, in Jamaica, there's a level of really high respect for teachers and how we interact and engage with them. And so, as a child, um, coming and seeing that shift and that difference, um, that was a shocker for me, right? And just how students engaged with each other. There was just a different level of it's not necessarily maturity, but there was just a different level of how, as a student, I was in the sixth grade, how the types of conversations that I would have with my friends, or the types of conversation that I would have with a grown up, with an adult. It was almost a space where um, students wanted to be seen and heard. And in my culture, growing up in Jamaica, it was sometimes it's like, and I don't want to generalize, I'm speaking about my experience, I want to name that. But it's like children should be seen and not heard. And so when you walk into a room of adults, there's a level of respect that you have. Even walking in, it's like, oh, good evening, good afternoon. I mean, it's just this level of formality or politeness. And here, I didn't experience that necessarily. There was just this level of, and I don't, and respect is what comes to mind when I think of that. It was just a different way, I think, in terms of how respect was seen, or how I experienced what I consider to be respect um, of adults in the space. So for me, it was a culture shock.
Yeah, I could imagine that, right? Of what you just described of, hi, ma'am, hi, miss, Mr. or Mrs. And, out here, sometimes you might hear a child call an adult by a first name. It's like, whoa, that's
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
like, hey, Jim, hey, Alex, right? Kids in my neighborhood,
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey, Alex. I'm like, it's Mr. Dumas, thank you. Like, but
Yeah, yeah. Or even if you think about in the environment, right? In Jamaica, it's very you have lots of beaches, it's open, it's lots of greenery. And just think to yourself, as a child coming into Manhattan, right? New York City, big buildings, skyscrapers, uh, I want to say population, huge
yeah,
population.
congested. Yeah, just
Yes.
yeah,
So even in terms of thinking about the environment, that was a shift as well. So it's the people, it's the culture, it's the environment. All of those things played out for me as a child.
yeah, awesome. And tying into now your professional background, right? In education, you have a master of social work, right? You're a coach as well. How would you say that you mentioned your parents earlier? Like, how would you, I guess, or connect the dots, or maybe there's a chance now to connect those dots? Like, how has their influence impacted your career, right? Your relationship with your mother, your father, and the role they've played in your life into who you
Yeah.
are and what you've done.
So my parents are my heroes. You know, you see folks who, I mean, when my parents came, we came as a family. So it's a family of five. My parents were in their early 30s, were in their like mid 30s. They had a life in Jamaica. They had their home. They had established themselves. And to uproot yourself and move to a different country and starting from scratch again, and doing that with love and sacrifice for your family because you wanted the best for them. When I look at that, I see that as deep love, as a love like no other. That you would do whatever it takes for your family to be where they need to be in life. You want the best for them, and so when I think of my parents, when I think of the emphasis that they have put on education in terms of once my dad usually say this a lot, and my mom too. Once you have your education, no one can take that away from you, right? That's always something, and with an education allows you to have options and choices, right? So it provides a way and a mechanism that if you choose not to do something, you have your education not to fall back on, but that is a stepping stone that should allow you to make certain decisions that in other circumstances you may not be able to. It just opens up a lot of other doors, and so I walk through life like that. I Yes, I do have a master's in social work and I have a PhD in education. Um, Education has always been, something that is important to me. I believe that, and moving through life, it's become this point where, um, as a Black woman, as a Black child, growing up, you know, I lived in the Bronx, but going through school and going through college, you realize that as a Black woman, sometimes you're not heard and you're not seen. As a black child, sometimes you're not provided with or experience a quality education or have access to that, right? And I saw that play out moving from high school to college, right? Where I went to a very highly prestigious liberal arts college and seeing that discrepancy and what happened there. And so for me, it's critical that I, as a Black woman, ensure that my students, my Black and Brown students in particularly, have access to a quality education. And so that has driven my career, where I have moved from that and really ensuring that you have access. And even if you're not in the trench of the school system, as an advocate, what can I do to ensure that this happens? It could be on the policy level, it could be in different ways, but what can I do to ensure that um, Black and Brown children, no matter where you are, no matter your socioeconomic status, no matter your zip code, that you're provided with the same opportunities to be able to participate in certain spaces or have opportunities that will elevate you to the next step of what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you first of all for being an advocate for these young minds, right? 'Cause there's so much brilliance in them, and it's something I want to go back to that you mentioned a couple of times, right? Of from what you kind of expressed about yourself, and then these students, right? Of not being seen, not being heard, not being able to fully express themselves. And I'm curious how you've, and this kind of connecting the dots between these students and then coaching clients, right? Of these things that we carry around with us. Sometimes we see each other like, hey, this, you can see the frame, like, yeah, I'm an adult man, I'm a 40-year-old man, but like there are times that the person who runs the show is this little 6-year-old, 7-year-old version of me, the one
Mhm.
that wants to be heard, the person that wants to be understood and respected. So how has that impacted your work, and even just with yourself, of like recognizing that within you of, hey, Little Paula wants to have her voice heard. Little Paula wants to be treated with a certain level of dignity and respect.
Yeah. So your question is, how does that connect to who I am today?
Yeah, how's that connected to who you are today and just the work that you do? Like as you see that with your as you've seen that with your students, and then as you are seeing that with your coaching clients.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that question because um, when I, engage with my clients, and then at the end of our session, I usually ask for a testimonial. What is it? What has it been like working with me as your coach? Um, and one of the things that's reverberating that comes up constantly is around you allow me to be my authentic self. And when I think of that, or you give me the space to be, and you listen to me, you hear me. um when I think of that, um I won't say it gives me chill, but it speaks directly to the core of who I am. Ensuring that people are seeing that you're coming to the table with your authentic self. Like, as a leader, I have, and this has been a journey. I wasn't always like this, so let me point that out. But I have zero problem in saying, I messed up. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't have an issue in, and I actually love feedback. Like, as a school leader, when I'm working with my teachers, I it's a two-way street, because the question is, if the whatever it is that I am doing in our relationship, if it's not supporting you, I want you to come to the table being your best self. I want to make sure that I am leveraging your strengths. I want to make sure that you're shining and being the best you can be for you and for our students. And so, in that manner, um, building relationships is part of my leadership stance. So, not just seeing Alex as my teacher, but Alex as a person. Who are you? Talk to me about your family. Um, as a leader, my stance is building relationship, because I want to know a person beyond them just being my employee. There's more to that person than that, right? Um, and I'm also open in sharing about myself with that person, because in that, and in knowing a person's story, you get to know an inner sense of what that person is about, or how did that person evolve to be where they are. Why is it that certain issues are so critical to that person, or it's important and it drives them? It's like a passion ignited, a fire in them. And so, when you learn more about people, you can work together to achieve more.
Yeah, well said. And I love the energy. I could feel the fire that you have from it. Like, and no, and it's a good way. Like, it's
It comes out, yeah.
right. It's a good heat, and I want to, part of this podcast right now. I want to like take this from the concept of like, all right, Dr. Paula Gordon, we're gonna see your picture, we're gonna see your face, read a little bit about you, but
Mhm.
like now I'm gonna give people like that real context of who you are, the work you do. So tell me about the people that you work with. Like tell me about the clients that those dream clients, those people that you love serving, those people that you help to create their authenticity in real life and real expression.
Yeah. So one group is new and emerging school leaders, to ensure that they can transform their practice and they're able to improve student achievement, is one of the groups of clients that I work with. As a school leader, I call it like the fire hose analogy, where things are hitting you front, left, right, center. And as a school leader, you have to be able to prioritize. You have to be able, as a leader, know yourself, be aware of who you are, because you're leading in that space. And many times, the decisions that we make is an impact, or it comes from who we are, right? We operate in that. And so if there's certain lens that you're not looking through, or certain blind spots that you may have that impact certain decisions that you make, right? um, and so for me, it's really about how do we empower school leaders, especially new and emerging school leaders, um, to be able to because you have to be able to center yourself in a way that you're balancing life and work, right? You have to be able to prioritize things. You have to be able to self-care while getting the work done, and be able to prioritize and navigate all those systems, and be able to work and collaborate with the different stakeholders, right? In term and be able to at that same time simultaneously push and move student achievement, right? And so, how do you do that successfully? As a new leader, I find many times you're scrambling. You're trying to just get through the day, or you're trying to get through one crisis before another crisis happens. It's like, oh my gosh, so I work with new and emerging school leaders who are just trying to figure it out, being a collaborative thought partner with them, being able to prioritize, being able to manage your time, um, being able to find out, what are the big rocks that I need to achieve, right? What's my strategic plan? How do I plan this out? How do I figure this out? How do I do instructional coaching? And so that's one group of clients that I work with. The next group is around, and this has been coming up, where I've been working with women who are in this mid. It's it's a career transition. I was going to say midlife career transition, but it's a career transition, right? Where you have been in a space for X amount of years, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're just like, "Gosh, I no longer have that joy. I no longer have that passion." And not knowing which way to turn or what to do. And so I've been working with my past few clients have also been women who are navigating a career transition journey.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I want to tap into the new and emerging school leaders for a minute, because you said a lot of things about the prioritization, right? And what I get from that is like you really helping them take a stance for, this is what I accept, this is what I won't accept, or this is where I'm best suited, or how I can bring my best self to the classroom. And obviously that
Actually, it's more
trickles.
than that. It's more than
It's
that,
more.
Alex. When I think of priority, priority or being able to prioritize, I'm thinking about, like, as a school leader, you have a vision, you have goals. So, as a school leader, if I say I want to achieve these three goals, right?
Yeah.
Many times, so for example, if I say I want to ensure that I am practicing instructional coaching. And so I am prioritizing observation and feedback. I am prioritizing being in the classroom to support my teachers, to ensure that they're able to support the students. And in that way, you're able to move and shift the needle on student achievement. But because many times in this role, it's a fire hose coming at you, you tend to, that doesn't become the focus, although that's your goal, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going into the classroom because you have 60 million other things to get done, which needs to be, which it's almost like, I need that now. That needs to be done now, you know? And so you have to, and so part of what I do is to be able to take a step back with that school leader and then put in systems in place that will allow them to prioritize that goal, right? So if my goal is observation and feedback, and I need to do instructional coaching with my teachers and ensure that I'm getting into those classrooms, then we're going to make sure we're going to put systems in place that will create the opportunity for you being able to meet and reach that goal.
Gotcha. What was interesting before is you had your glasses on, so anybody's listening. Paula has her glasses off right now, and I love this analogy, right? Of these teachers maybe couldn't see it. They were like kind of all over the place. They're firefighting, these school leaders. What happens when you come across somebody who's maybe a little bit resistant, right? They're pushing back. No, no, Paula, you don't understand. I have this and this. I don't have time for that, right? What's it look like with that type of person who's just like, no, this is how I've always done it. I'm not gonna. I'm not open to this new way of being. These suggestions. Like, what happens there with that kind of person?
That's a great question, Alex, because in my career, I've had and experienced um, leaders and teachers who have been resistant, right? Whatever so if it's a initiative that's being implemented, resistance there. If it's around coaching, resistance there. And part of it for me, I alluded to that before about building relationships and how it's a part of my leadership stance, and it's an important part of my stance and who I am as a person. And a part of that in building that relationship is trust, right? And so the client the client, and you have to be able to build a trusting relationship. They have to know that you support them in this journey. And what you're sharing with them, it's not a I tell you, because for me, they also have that choice, right? When I'm coaching my clients, I don't prescribe to them, you need to do X, Y, and Z. We're working together as a collaborative, as a team, right? And they have agency in the decisions that they also make, right? So if a person is resistant, it's about figuring out where's the resistance coming from. Like, what is it that's causing that? Is it that a fear of doing it? Is it that I don't have a clear understanding of how to do it? Is it that I don't have enough support to ensure that it happens? There may be a million and one reasons. And so, as a coach, it's my role to be able to thought partner with this person to be able to figure out what's causing the resistance, and then for us to be able to walk through that journey together.
Yeah, well said. That's beautiful. I love it. Switching to this other side, right? These you said women that are in this transition period, right? Career transitions. What's their fear looking like? What's t- put us in their brain for a minute of like, what are they seeing? What's the resistance in them?
It's when you are at a certain space or that I chuckle because this is going to age me too, but but when you're in a certain decade, let me say that, of life, and you have established yourself in that role, and many times it defines who you are. And so when you're in that space, and sometimes it's like, okay, it's defining me. I also am in a space now where I'm not in my early 20s when I can just um just I don't want to say jump and do things, but it's like you're just more free flowing many times. Once again, not generalizing, but many times when you are in other decades of your life, whether it's your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, wherever you are along that spectrum, you also have additional responsibilities, right? Where it's not just you that you're thinking about. Sometimes it's your children, it's your spouse, it's parents. There are different things that come into play. And so many times what's happening with that transition, those fears are there. I'm not saying to anyone quit your job, but say for example you wanted to shift from one industry to another. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have a stable income. So say for example you wanted to switch out of what you're doing and wanted to become an entrepreneur,
Mm. It's a
or
full
wanted to become
contact
a
sport.
consultant.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a huge switch, and it's a huge shift where you have to be able to think about, okay, and so the resistance may come into play is that, oh, if I do this, I won't have a stable income coming in.
Mm.
Or if I do this, oh my gosh, I won't have medical insurance, health insurance. These are real things. If I do this, I won't be able to give the my children what they need or what the lifestyle that they've been used to, whether it's participating in different activities or taking the trips, whatever that entails. There's a lot that goes into making those types of shifts later on in life. And it's so when the resistance come into play, it's coming into play not because the person may not want to do it, but because those real fear exists.
Yeah. Yeah, fear is what they say, the thief of joy sometimes, right? Or big ideas. There's so much brilliance. The wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. That's an analogy, but I love your work of what you're helping these leaders do, these powerful women as well. Of yeah, there's gonna be fear there, but courage is moving forward in the face of fear, doing it anyway. And
Yes.
a lot of work I do with people's really kind of upgrading the identity, because it's a big shift from employee stable to
Hmm.
entrepreneur to being really the CEO of your business, being a methodical,
Yes.
systematic CEO. And that is, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. There's no judgment there. But
Mhm.
I think with the work that you're doing and the approach you have, you're going to be able to build a bridge for them to do that.
Yes. Hmm. And some mindset shift that happens in that process as well, as they're evolving. Um, and it's not easy work, right? I by no way want to sit here and say, oh, it's easy. It's not easy, but is it possible? It's absolutely possible, right? And I think, when you think of your why and like what allows you to do that work, you know, being the CEO or the founder or the principal of your business, um, it allows this level of freedom and liberation and flexibility. So I think each person, if you think about your why and why you do the work you do, um, and it provides, you have that passion. If you can wake up every morning and um, no matter how difficult a day you've had, but you enjoy the work you do, that's power right there. And so what better way of bringing that joy, when you think about career transition, what better way of bringing that joy to you when you think about what's going to make me just happy. And it's more than just like a superficial happy, it's like a deep joy. It's a joy and the sense of doing the work that you're set here in this world to do. Like, what's your purpose?
Yeah. Although the deep joy, right? Beyond the surface, the real meat, the thing that
Hmm.
drives and the work that myself and the leadership team here we've done with this collective, like this is what fuels me, and having these kind of conversations, hearing your story and blasting this out to the world for people to watch, to listen to, and hopefully inspire them. That's exciting for me. And one thing I don't think I've ever asked you, or I don't know about yet, is how did you find your way into the collective? Like, how did you come into our orbit, so to speak?
I love that question. I came into orbit through a friend. A friend of mine, we're talking and she's like, I think you should check. She said, I've heard a lot about this group. You may want to check it out. I'm interested as well, but I have not yet had the chance to. And all you have to do is just give me a buzz. And I'm like, so I went online and I checked it out and I'm like, oh. And I think what drew me to the space, to the BIPOC space, was being a space of affinity, being in a space as a person of color with other leaders and just incredible people, just dynamite, and humble as well, right? But it's being in a space where you're with other coaches and leaders of color who are doing the same work or similar work that you're doing, where you can learn and you can grow and you can contribute, right? Because you have to also say, how do you show up in that space and what are you bringing to the table, right? Um, but it's just such a welcoming and warm and supportive group and supportive space where it allows you to also be your authentic self. And I
Yeah.
think there's nothing more powerful than that when a person is operating in a space where they can be their authentic self.
Yeah. That's what makes things happen. That's what makes real long lasting impact happen. It's legacy that we are building here, and you've been an
Yeah.
incredible contributor to that. And I love that you said that, right? Because it's not just about having a space and a place to be. No, what are you bringing to this? And
Yes.
your story, your gifts, your blessings are what helps us. It just adds to this ingredient, this I call it a success cake. So we have a little, got some Dr. Paula right here. We got some Alex. We got some Reem. We got some Gwen. Some Kibi. We got all of our wonderful people, and it's what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you as we look toward the future, right? Because I'm always, we're coaches, future forward. What are you excited about as with your coaching practice? Like, what's next on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I am excited about continuing to grow. I'm excited about not only coaching individual, but coaching groups. I think it's so powerful. Imagine coaching a group of 4 to 6 new and emerging school leaders. How powerful is that? Or coaching a group of 4 to 6 women who are also dealing and working through the journey of career transition. Because in that group, there's power, but there's also support. And there's so much that you learn, and you learn that you're not in it by yourself, you know, or that what you're experiencing is not isolated, you know. So I'm excited about continuing to grow in my coaching business and continue to work with individuals, but also excited about working with groups. So doing group coaching with the same concept in mind.
That's awesome. I'm excited to see what you create and the breakthroughs that your clients are going to be experiencing, and just like I said, the ripple effects, right? It's we work with
Yes.
one person or a small group, but we didn't have no idea how many dozens of people that touches, and
Yeah, that's true.
it moves the world. So for
Hmm.
folks who want to learn more about your work, who want to connect with you, where do we find you? How do we stalk you and lurk and creep
Please
and
stop.
and be, we want to be your biggest
Yeah.
fan. So how do we find you, Paula?
Yeah. So you can find me at my website, which is www.pgglobaled consulting.org. Or you can find me as well on LinkedIn at Paula Gordon. So linkedin.com/in.backslash Paula Gordon, which is
Wonderful.
Gordon.
Yes, that's excellent. And as we close out, is there anything that you haven't said that you wanted to express? Like, I want to make sure we come to a place of completion and
Yeah.
we've given you the floor to be elevated and celebrated.
I think I want to leave with, wherever you are in this space, wherever you are in this journey, it's really, it's about being the best you can be, being your best self. I always say many times we compare ourselves with other people. Um, or, especially with social media, you're always seeing a bombard of, people doing X, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not there yet. But it's really about comparing yourself to yourself. How can you be your best self? And so, don't lose sight of that. Don't ever lose sight of that. And, continue to strive and continue to grow, and um, you'll get there. Everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
And lastly, I will say I want to thank you for providing this space and this time to just talk and just share, and to continue to elevate the different members of BIPOC. So thank you for that,
No, you're welcome and received, and thank you for being who you are. I love the enthusiasm. I love your
Alex.
passion to be a champion for people, and those are the type of folks I love being around. So, like I
Thank
said,
you.
you're a valued member here at the collective, and
Thank you.
we look forward to supporting you however we can to make sure as many leaders, as many folks in transition get the support they're looking for, and no other better place to go than to you. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you, Paula, for joining us, and
Thank you,
looking
Alex.
forward to supporting you. For everyone else watching, listening, take care, stay blessed. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you got value from this, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. And feel free to connect with us at bipoccc.org. See you next time.